that maybe like 70 or 80% of customers are more likely to purchase from a brand that will personalize the customer experience. And likewise, they're more likely to share data, basically their email or contact information, if there's an understanding that they will get a better customer experience, more personalized customer experience on the receiving end.
Hey everyone, this is Nazar Akil from Max Pro.
Hi, I'm Linda.
And I'm Paul.
And we're Love and Pebbles.
Hi, this is Lopa Vandermersch from Rasa.
Oh, and you're listening.
And you are listening to the E-Comm Show.
Welcome to the E-Comm Show, presented by BlueTuskr. The #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Maff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the E-Comm Show. I am your host, Andrew Maff, and today I am joined by the amazing Gen Furukawa, who is the co-founder of Prehook. Gen, how you doing? You ready for a good show?
I'm great. Thank you. I don't know if I deserve the amazing, but thank you.
Oh, this is, you do. This is going to be fun. I'm doing like this type of marketing stuff where like we get into like gated content and like thinking outside the box a little bit, but I digress. Let's pretend no one knows who you are. No one knows anything about Prehook. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about Prehook, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So co-founder of Prehook, as you mentioned. So Prehook is a quiz platform for Shopify merchants, basically allowing merchants to ask a few questions, learn more about the customer, capture a lead, which is optional, recommend a product. So, the main goal is to ultimately help merchants understand a little bit about what their customers are looking for, and then serve up the most appropriate and relevant customer experience. So we started building it in 2020, kind of like right at the start of the pandemic. And my two co-founders I've been working with since 2015. We're part of the founding team at Jungle Scout, which is a leading Amazon product research tool. So we've had a lot of experience working together, familiarity, and then also familiarity in the e-commerce enablement or SaaS space. There are some different, interesting contrasts of what we experience with Amazon sellers versus Shopify sellers. One of the main ones is that Amazon sellers are really kind of like, they have a good understanding of who their core customer is, what problem they're trying to solve, because it's largely based around search query. Shopify merchants slightly different, so there's a wide range of what somebody might be looking for. So just the ability to ask with just a few simple questions can dramatically change how you position and merchandise the product.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know that I expected you to say that Amazon sellers know their customer base better than their Shopify sellers. So are you saying that because they basically can see specifically what people are searching, whereas in Shopify, it's a little bit more, I guess fluid is probably the best way to put it?
Exactly. Yeah. That an Amazon listing is really optimized for a specific search query. So Amazon's like largely about an SEO game. And that SEO, like you're kind of reverse engineering what the customer is looking for, and therefore merchandising the product appropriately to that. Shopify is different. Even something as simple as like whether you're an apparel brand or a multivitamin brand, the same multivitamin could have many different use cases, whether it's to improve immunity or general health, or if it's for anxiety, not so much for multivitamin, but there are many different use cases from one single product. And so the customer, based on the challenges they're experiencing or the goals that they have or their general preferences or daily habits, matter in terms of how you're going to unfold the brand, how you're going to educate the customer on what their problems are, and how you're going to provide the solution that gets them from point A, their current status quo and their current situation, to point B, which is their aspirational future, where they're hoping to get to or why they're interested in your product in the first place.
Okay, nice. So you mentioned you were part of the original crew for Jungle Scout, and you've now started Prehook here. What made you want to kind of get away from the Amazon side and start getting into developing Prehook?
Yeah, well, we'd always wanted to, do our own thing in the SaaS space. So my two co-founders are both developers and kind of like own the product, and I'm doing everything else: marketing, customer success, support, some product as well. But yeah, it was kind of like a personal goal and ambition to start my own thing, and so that was the thought there that kind of like galvanized us, like, hey, let's figure out what we can build, where there might be a need. And so Shopify is definitely an interesting space to us. And, you've experienced this firsthand as well. Like during the pandemic, there was a lot of change in the e-commerce space. And so Shopify shot up since has gone down a little bit. And the ways that the brands are addressing the changes in the marketing landscape have changed also, namely iOS 14. And the changes in terms of privacy, customer data privacy that Apple has cut off. So where the traditional blueprint of go-to-market or scaling a brand would be heavily reliant on strategically running paid campaigns, that's not as profitable as much now, with targeting being more amorphous or harder to pinpoint. So who your ad is being shown to. Cost per clicks have increased, cost per acquisition has increased, and the reliance on these rented platforms of paid ads has become kind of like less desirable. And so brands are more focused on building a direct relationship with customers, which namely means capturing an email, capturing a phone number so you can run SMS campaigns.
Yeah. So essentially zero party data, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So zero party data being data that customers proactively and willingly share with you, as opposed to first party data, which is kind of captured passively, but there's not explicit statements of intent, or you don't understand necessarily. It could be, for example, website activity or products purchased, and from there, maybe order value, or maybe a shipping address, so you have the geography, but you don't necessarily know why did they purchase this or why did they abandon the cart. But with zero party data, which is basically completing a quiz or survey or even sales support or support chat, a customer is raising their hand saying, this is what I'm sharing with you, where there are no assumptions or leaps of faith guesses.
Yeah. So why get into, so you mentioned, you guys left, you wanted to get into in SaaS and e-commerce. What made you do a quiz platform?
Yeah. So we had a few ideas, but at the time, and this is like, there definitely have been more products launched since. So it's become more competitive, more offerings in the landscape. There weren't really a lot of quiz platforms, really any. Brands were kind of retrofitting Typeform, which is good, except Typeform is not really meant for e-commerce in terms of how it integrates with Shopify or how it integrates with Klaviyo. So you go through a Typeform quiz, the data wasn't necessarily sent in a way that was easily consumable or usable. It didn't integrate with Shopify inventory, so you couldn't recommend a product. It would just take you to kind of like a generic landing page. So we thought that there were opportunities to streamline that. And after speaking with merchants, we did identify that, indeed, it would be something that's helpful. And then, of course, with the iOS rollout, things also changed to become a tailwind, essentially, for Prehook.
It's really interesting because, like, the whole concept, in my opinion, of e-commerce sellers leveraging some kind of gated content. So, in this case, like quizzes or something, it's so underutilized. Everyone wants to go directly for the sale. They want to come to your site. Really, the only thing they have from terms of a gated content is, 10% off your first order, and it's a pop-up, and like, that's it. The quiz thing has always been really interesting because it's fun and it's interactive. And then you can also lead them down a certain direction. So we've actually done a lot internally of driving, like, just like specifically because of the iOS issue, where we'll actually drive traffic and just do a traffic campaign, let's say from Facebook ads, send that to a quiz and just let people have fun with it. Like, if they convert, great, but that's not the goal. And if we do a video to actually get them there, we'll then retarget that audience. So that's the thing that I love about sending people to something that I'm not asking you to buy anything. Yeah, you're going to have to give me an email or something, but it's a fun quiz, kind of like how, like BuzzFeed has done over the years and stuff. So it's very cool to see, something that's getting a little bit more catered to the e-commerce side specifically, because it's always been like a nice like B2B side, but it hasn't had any like product suggestions or anything. So what are some like really cool like use cases you've seen with it?
Yeah. BuzzFeed is great. BuzzFeed and the New York Times. I mean, I think like viral quizzes have definitely put BuzzFeed on the map. And this is maybe like 2016, 2017, because it definitely plays to our human curiosity, our innate desire to like learn more about ourselves. Like what type of prince would you be, or Disney prince, whatever.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. It's like,
what's
for
your
us,
Disney princess?
Yeah, but there are definitely brands that do a really great job. So one brand, and it's not a Prehook customer, but beard brand, men's hair care. They've done a fantastic job and have like shared. They use a Typeform quiz, but it's more of like, what type of beardsman are you? So that's like the personality and the grouping type quiz, where it doesn't necessarily like suggest a product, but that's more similar to the BuzzFeed type quiz. A product recommendation quiz is very common, a common use case. The goal there ultimately is to simplify the buying process. So if you're a conversion rate optimization expert or consultant, you're focused on simplifying the buying process, addressing any questions or objections that the customer might have that's preventing them from purchasing. And the quiz can help you uncover that. So that's another type. For recurring e-commerce brands, let's say like a Stitch Fix, which is recurring clothing, or Scentbird, which is recurring scent fragrances for men and women, or Rockets of Awesome, clothes for kids on a recurring basis. A quiz is critical. It's part of their onboarding process. Because if you think about how these brands are making money and how they're converting sales, it really requires a fine-tuned understanding of what the customer is looking for, all the way from the basics of like, what are you, male or female, and what size, what's your style preference, to more of like the why are you shopping here? Is it more for the convenience of getting a box, or is it for the discovery of seeing new styles? So that's another use case. Gift, kind of like a gift finder, is also another popular use case. And then lastly, this is more post-purchase, but like a post-purchase quiz or post-purchase survey. How did you hear about us? Or what are your thoughts? And so, Prehook is more used for like the pre-purchase use case. And then there are other Shopify apps like Inquire Labs or No Commerce that are really specific around that post-purchase use case. But a lot of it is ultimately about learning more about your customers so you can better serve their needs in a more relevant and engaging way.
I know there's theories around from an SEO standpoint about consistent engagement on a site. Like if majority of users are, obviously there'll be a page authority judgment on wherever the quiz is hosted, but is the quiz, is it embedded? Is it led to like a subdomain? How is it hosted on the site?
Yeah. So for ours, it's often on a page. So it could be a pop-up. It could be embedded as an iframe on a page. It could be, triggered by a button or a link. And so that's how we do it. Some brands do, or, some other quiz products will do a subdomain, which, it's kind of a weird user experience. And I'm not trying to denigrate any other competitors, but ideally you want to have a streamlined customer experience where they're not going to another website altogether, then popping back onto the site with the quiz being branded, because ultimately you're not trying to see, all right, this quiz is powered by Typeform, has powered by Typeform. So ideally, and this is what we're really focusing on, is to create an experience that's on brand. So like the look, the feel, the customer flow is all on brand. And then it becomes essentially like speaking to a sales associate, but it's just online and answering fun questions.
Have you been able to kind of prove out or do any case studies around the SEO benefits of that? Because like I feel like if you have consistent engagement on a site, it's reducing your bounce rate. It's keeping that their average page session is possibly going to be higher, especially if you're sending them over another product. So in theory, I would assume that even having a quiz and driving traffic to just a quiz that may not have a ton of content on it is still going to help the SEO of the overall site as time goes on. Is that something you guys have looked into?
I have not. That's a great point. Have not. We've more focused on some of the KPIs that we're familiar with and that we surface in our app. So that's dollars driven, or basically revenue generated from the quiz.
It's a good KPI to look at.
Leads, which is definitely one of the main values, and then also conversion rate. And that's like from a brand that's in Google Analytics or Triple Whale to take those that have taken a quiz, completed a quiz, or those that have not. And we're seeing that those that have taken a quiz do have a higher revenue per email, higher conversion rate, and higher average order value.
Interesting. Nice. How are you increasing, like, or I guess not how are you, but what is your suggestion when someone is using Prehook, how to get them to actually come in and take the quiz and go through the process? Because I know a lot of people, they might land on a quiz, it'll ask them for an email to take the quiz, and then they'll be like, I don't want to do that. Or they'll get all the way to the end of the quiz, it'll ask for an email, and then be like, I don't care what the answer is anymore. Like, what's your guidance on getting people to actually go the whole way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, well, first of all, is this notion of micro conversions. So micro conversions is not it's something that necessarily will contribute to ultimately like purchasing in the end or adding an email, but it's the first step, and it's an indication of customer intent and customer interest. So one example is, I believe it's called First Leaf, is a wine brand, and on their homepages, do you like red wine or white wine? Another example is V-Shred, which is kind of like a supplement brand and educational content for getting more healthy. Are you a man or a woman? And these are like easy questions. They require no thought and no effort. And it's like, yes, I'm a man, or yes, I like white. You start that unknowingly to the customer. That's the first question in the quiz, but they've already started. So I think like making it easy with micro conversions is one solution. Another is creating a curiosity gap. And what I mean by that is like you're sharing information with the customer, and this is new and intriguing information. Like it might be, for example, like, hey, discover this, what coffee is right for your taste, or it's not a great curiosity hook, but this gap of, there is something that you will learn about yourself, but it requires the action of clicking through. So that's critical in order to kind of like start them through the process. And then that also applies to the very end. Often I do recommend asking for the email at the end. As you were saying, like it's a lot to upfront ask for something like an email if you don't know what you're getting or why they should. But at the end, this curiosity gap of like, hey, where can we send this, the solution to, solving your sleepless nights or whatever it is. And so that's enough of a compelling pitch in order to share an email. So ultimately, like how to get them to complete the full circle of starting the quiz to finishing it is that there's enough value, or there's enough like educational content for the customer to trust you, that you have the answer, or that you have something that would be helpful for them, and then presenting it, at the end. Where can we send it? And then, by and large, for me as well, I take this from a customer experience, like from the customer perspective. I'm far more willing to share my email if there's something of value that I can get in return.
Yeah. Those examples you just gave, they're very, it's kind of like an impressive way to use. How do I explain this? It's kind of like an impressive way to use like a filter on a collection page, right? Like if you had a really large product line, you sold a bunch of shirts, and let's say it was all, football teams. Instead of them selecting the football team and then the color and then the type of shirt, it's actually a quiz that you take them down, which is, it makes a lot of sense. It helps them kind of navigate through a large product line, which would make that really simple. What about from like an entertainment purpose? So like providing some kind of like entertainment value. So like, let's say we use the same concept. It's a company that does shirts for, NFL teams. And you actually just put together a quiz that kind of tells you like, if you like hot weather or cold weather and et cetera. And it tells you like where you should go at for your next NFL like travel game. in which case I feel like it's kind of interesting because you're providing an entertainment value, but at the same time, you're still capturing the information of clearly someone that's a relevant audience, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that addresses like the simplifying the buying process, the kind of like reducing the overwhelm of making a decision, but also while making it fun. One example that pops into mind is Airbnb. So this is kind of like, what's your ideal destination? It's not an e-commerce example per se, but it is, an online transaction. And the benefit there as well is not only the fun of it, but like the discovery of it. Like, obviously Airbnb spans the whole globe in terms of hospitality and places to stay. And so that's I think addressing similar to what you're talking about. It's not just checking boxes on a filter, but you're answering questions that are meant to be entertaining and fun. But then on the flip side, there's the discovery of like, oh, I didn't even know that like my interest would take me to Madagascar. So that's like, I think referring to what you're talking about.
Yeah. Because it's one thing I've always noticed in the e-commerce industry is, especially Shopify sellers, a lot of them, they want to go straight for the sale. So if you're doing Facebook ads, they're targeting purchases. If they're doing any kind of other advertising, they're offering a discount. They just want the purchase, like purchase. And while obviously that makes sense because that's how you make money and that's why we're in this industry, but at the same time, I find that providing some kind of value first and then asking for the sale, like a quiz like this or any kind of gated content, is a great way to go because you ease them into the brand. It's kind of like, it's to me, it's sometimes got like a car salesman approach where it's like, buy this. And in my opinion, I love stuff like this because it's really much more like hey, here's something fun for you to do. And then that's it. And then you kind of ease them into the process. You like walk them through it as opposed to just shoving a sale in their face.
Totally. And I think by and large, consumers are being a little more savvy and discerning about like, first of all, sharing the email, and then also like that people are expecting a personalized experience. And so I think there was an Accenture study from a few years ago that maybe like 70 or 80% of customers are more likely to purchase from a brand that will personalize the customer experience. And likewise, they're more likely to share data, basically their email or contact information, if there's an understanding that they will get a better customer experience, more personalized customer experience on the receiving end. And so there's dollars and there's data to back up the value of like how, if a brand effectively uses the data to personalize the experience. So yeah, I think once a brand uses that and then unfolds the story, the brand story effectively. One example from a Prehook customer is a brand called Telixer, which is like an adaptogen brand. They sell mushrooms, so like lion's mane or reishi, to address different health challenges, whether it is joint pain or anxiety or sleeplessness. And so their quiz, and it's directly integrated with Klaviyo, will have conditional splits in the welcome flow, their post-quiz flow, depending on what the challenges the customer is looking for, which is really important, and exactly like what you're talking about. Like, you don't want to sell upfront, and if you do market, you want to like market with things that are relevant to what the customer shared about themselves already. And I think that they do a really good job of that, and I've seen the results in terms of ROI and lift from personalizing their flows.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. It's a cool idea. Again, super appreciate having you on the show. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Loved having you on. I'd love for you to let everyone know where they can find a little bit more about you and obviously Prehook.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, please email me directly, Gen, Gen, at prehook.com. Happy to like answer any questions or brainstorm how a quiz might be helpful, or, the strategy at a high level. And feel free to check out prehook.com is our website, or search Prehook on the Shopify App Store. We have a 14-day free trial and do guarantee 100% ROI, just because we do have full belief that if implemented and used strategically, it can have a significant lift on revenues.
Beautiful. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for being on the show. Obviously, everyone else who tuned in, thank you for being on the show. As usual, please make sure you rate, review, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you want, or if you're watching this on YouTube, or just head over to ecommshow.com and you can check them all out wherever you prefer. But as usual, we really appreciate you joining us, and we'll see y'all next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the E-Comm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The E-Comm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the E-Comm Show.